Today's video is in response to my last video. If you want to check that out, you can do so up here, about how fathers have a moral obligation to dress well. And on that video, I got a comment from a guy who said that this is a weird way to think, and he thinks it's dangerous. He said that he's made a living off of his streetwear approach, and that he's a tattooed dad who has a lot of influence, it sounds like, in the skate and streetwear cultures, and basically what I'm promoting is conformity, which I guess I can get that if you don't totally understand the context of where I'm coming from. But the irony is that he uses terms like streetwear and skate culture and tattooed father as a way to preach anti-conformity, when all he's really doing is just conforming to a subculture. Conformity is this buzzword that has existed since the cultural revolution of the 60s, and it made sense back then. It even made sense 20 years ago. Back then, especially back in the 60s, there was a dominant American culture. But since then, we have become so split up into so many different subcultures that there really isn't a dominant culture to which one can conform to. So rather than being this kind of monolithic culture, there's all these subcultures or sub-tribes, and each one of them has a uniform. And so what this dad is saying is basically, here are the buzzwords that I've used: skate, streetwear, tattooed, and all of those, I have an immediate response as far as what that aesthetic is. I'm sure that you have an immediate response. You have this mental picture of what that aesthetic is, because that's all communicating conformity into a specific subculture or into a specific tribe. And so the irony of this guy's comment is that he's basically doing the same thing that I'm advocating. He's teaching his kids the intentionality of their clothing. All that he's doing is saying that the skate and streetwear cultures are the cultures that he wants to be a part of, and those are the cultures that he wants his kids to be a part of, which is fine, because I don't think that in order for you to be able to dress well, and in order for you to be able to teach your kids what it means to dress well, that the only way to appropriately do that is within the refined archetype, or within a throwback to what the dominant American culture and those aesthetics were. I don't think that at all. I think that he is teaching his kids through his example just as much intentionality and just as much about the consequences of their appearance as a guy who wears a pair of coveralls to an oil rig to work every day, or as a guy who wears a $10,000 Tom Ford suit on his way to a meeting in Wall Street. All of that can communicate intentionality. And so I love that what he's done is taken an approach that's very intentional. It's very indicative of who he is and how he sees himself within the world, and he wears clothing that communicates that. That's what I'm in favor of. That's what I think dads should do. So, you, Mr. Commenter, have actually proven my point for me, and for that I appreciate it, because you've taken all of these concepts and just applied them into your own realm, into your own group. And that's what I want guys to do. I don't want all you guys to dress like me, because I have my own approach to the world. I don't want you guys to dress like anybody who is inconsistent with what your perceptions of the world are. That's what I want you to do, is figure out what your philosophical approach is to the world, what you are as a man and what you want from the world, and then figure out a way that your clothing can help you accomplish that and help you attain those goals. So, if that's a dad who's a surf bum or a street rat or a style blogger or a white-collar businessman or a ranch hand or anything else you can come up with, if that's what your relationship is with the world as a dad, use your clothing to help facilitate that with your kids. Don't tell them that they just have to wear a uniform and that they have to do it just because that's what culture says, but help them understand that what they're doing is communicating things through their clothing.